Not yours to talk.
You
You have to say the pledge.
No, it's for Donald.
You also have to sing the national anthem or start something. April Fools.
Only if you have backup vocals from you.
I got you at a
We'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for April 2nd, 2019. We have before us an agenda. Are there any edits to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. We have 4 items for closed meeting. One is pursuant to paragraph 7, and 3 pursuant to paragraph 8 of section 2.2-3711A.
Okay. Any other changes? If not, do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Please join us in a moment of silence, and Councilmember Shoemaker, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anyone signed up to make public comment?
No, ma'am.
Thanks, Lassen. We have Mr. Doyle Christian of 120 Alpine in Manassas Park. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. About a little over a year ago, 2 years ago, the board, Manassas Park, did away with the city stickers. I would love to see them bring them back, because myself, other citizens, we can recognize what vehicles are supposed to be in our city. We are losing thousands of dollars of people not registered and paying city taxes. Like on my street, I come home, I live on a hill, I don't have a place to put a driveway. My house is the only one without a driveway. I got to park clear down the end of the street. My wife has to park clear down the end of the street. And I don't want her walking down through there at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to her car. So I would love for the city to bring them back. And I was told over a month ago, well, that's up to the police department to run the tags. They got better things to do. Come here. All right, that car belongs to Maryland. And a month later, come back. You're wasting the officer's time. We got a great #1 police force. I'll brag on them,
Thank you.
They got better things to do. They're out there protecting us. Not worried about this car. Before they can ride down the street, look here, that Impala. A month later, look, that Impala still don't have no city sticker. Let's stop and give them a warning. I'd love to see y'all bring the city stickers back.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir. City manager has begun his study of decals, how it's handled in other localities, what we're losing, what we stand to gain. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Les?
April 16th will actually be briefing up on that.
Okay,
I know some counties don't, but they get the bigger counties than what we got.
sure.
Like the Gap, other house up the street. They're renting rooms, 6, 7 rooms.
Yeah. Well, sir, I can assure you, when we eliminated the decals, it was not a fly-by-night decision. We weighed the consequences, or what we thought would be the consequences of having it versus not having them. And we said at that time that if it was indicated the decals should be brought back, that we would certainly do that. So we will hear what city manager has to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Think hard about it.
We will. We will certainly think hard.
I appreciate it.
Yes, we will. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who is not signed up and who would still like to make public comment? Okay, moving on to presentations. We have none. Next, we have a proclamation proclaiming April 11th, 2019 as Community Services 50th Anniversary Day. Whereas Prince William Community Services was the first community services board established in Virginia on November 21st, 1968, And whereas the Prince William Community Services served 300 clients in 1968 and now serves more than 9,800 clients throughout Prince William County, the City of Manassas, and the City of Manassas Park. And whereas Prince William Community Services started with 9 clinical staff and today has a staff of 332 individuals. And whereas Prince William Community Services stated by providing mental health clinic services, and today we provide more than 16 different programs and services to youth, adults, and older adults. Whereas these 50 years of service have been marked by exemplary service, compassion, and caring by our professional and remarkable staff for those at risk or living with a mental health, substance abuse disorder, or developmental disability. And whereas Prince William Community Services is a collaborative partner that supports individuals, families, and communities in nurturing well-being through trauma-informed practices. Now therefore be it resolved that the Manassas Park governing body, on behalf of the residents of the City of Manassas Park, hereby congratulates Community Services for 50 years of services and proclaims April 11th, 2019 as Community Services 50th Anniversary Celebration Day in the City of Manassas Park.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We have a proclamation. We also have Lisa Madron with us this evening. If you'd like to come up to say a few words about community services, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Community services, as you know, serves some of the most vulnerable and complex individuals, and we couldn't do that without your support and your recognition. We do have a wonderful trained staff that are very dedicated to those we serve and really consider it their vocation and their calling to serve these individuals. So we really appreciate your support. I did want to update you because the last time that I was here was in midsummer, early fall, and we had started our same-day access, which was in July. And individuals with a serious mental illness or substance use disorder could walk in Monday through Thursday and receive a clinical assessment between 8:30 and 2:30. For the first quarter, we doubled those that we saw during that first quarter of this year compared to the previous year. And we were averaging about 40 intakes per week. We also were getting clients into services within 10 days. And we hit a wall on that in October. We reached our capacity and now have reestablished waiting lists. But we are continuing the same-day access. We are now averaging around 56 individuals per week. And we are capping out on certain days, and individuals are asked to come back. We try to do that as infrequently as possible. So I did want to let you know that we definitely have the need, and we appreciate your support and your recognition.
Well, we certainly appreciate everything that you folks do. Thank you very much.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry. May I ask a question? If somebody needs to access some of your services, what is the best way to reach out to you? By phone or to come to the office, or is...
Again, Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 2:30.
Okay.
An individual can walk in to our offices in Palazzo and in Manassas.
Where is your office in Manassas?
In Manassas, it's at Sudley North. It is 7969 Ashton Avenue. And individuals are there to assess them and help them, and if they meet the criteria, get them connected to our services or help them get connected to other community services if we're not able to serve.
Right. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a briefing on our parking garage from the VRE staff, and we welcome you. Thank you so much for coming out this evening to talk with us and answer questions.
Thank you, Mayor, for this item on the agenda today. I'd just like to introduce, since we already staff here today, I'm Sonali Someti, the Planning Program Administrator, and happy to be back. With me also to help with the briefing is Dallas Richard. He's our Manager of Project Implementation. We have Rich Dalton, our Chief Operating Officer, and Noreen Walker, the Project Manager for this phase of the project. So we're here today to respond and to sort of follow up on our January 29th workshop that we had with the governing body and the planning commission. And thank you again so much for your time and attention that day. We have listened to your feedback and we are here to report on how we're going to move forward considering what we heard. As we mentioned that day, the project phases that we have for the project, right now we're in final design, and that is the project phase that is going to take a 30% design for the garage and bring it up to 100% design. So that's the phase of the design process where we refine the details and we get ready for construction. And I wanted to go over today in a little bit more detail what to expect with this phase. So we're here today, April 2nd. We're in the very sort of initial phase of final design. We have started refining that 30% design phase. And what happens during this whole phase is we collect additional information on the site or from other sources, and all of that information, data, or decisions are incorporated into the design, and design refinements happen, such as we have incorporated soils information, there may be survey information that, new information that we might need to make some refinements based on. And this slide talks about many of the different activities that we would be going through. And there are two sort of milestones, internal milestones for this final design phase. 60% design is the first one, and then 90%. And those are sort of very rough sort of phases of the project that we wanted to break this bigger phase down into. So what happens as we go through the process, the design is not designed all at once. So we make some decisions, and then there might be another set of investigations or more information that comes in, and then the design is refined. So during this whole final design phase, from 30% to let's say 90% design, things might get reevaluated several times. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand where we are. And so at the end of around 90% design, that's when we come back with a site plan application submittal to the city staff. And beyond 90%, that's the point when we have a lot of the major decisions taken. We're not expecting any major changes beyond that point. So that's sort of the milestone that we're showing there. And then from 90% to 100%, there are some final approvals and permits that we would be expecting. And beyond the 100% phase, we are getting ready for construction. So, as I said, we're here today sort of to make sure that we let you know that we heard the feedback that was provided at the January 29th workshop by the city, and wanted to make you aware of how we're going forward. A memo that was sent around on March 15th. I know we were able to review that. These are the points on the memo that I'm going to go over. So one of the recommendations, the first recommendation was or item of discussion, I should say, was to decide whether we wanted to remove the north entrance. And we spent a lot of time on January 29 talking about that, and we have decided that, because the city is very interested in retaining that north entrance for emergency purposes and other purposes, we're going to keep both the entrances. We're not getting rid of that.
Thank you.
The second point was to look at enlarging the foundations on the northernmost line of the northernmost face of the garage. And that was really to retain the ability to extend the garage at some point in that direction. And I'll show you in a minute why we don't think that that is going to be necessary anymore, because that extension of the garage may not actually be feasible. So I'm sorry for this is a detailed drawing that was developed recently. And what this shows, again, is the garage on the bottom left. And you can see the two entrances that have been retained. And the extension of Park Center Court with the cul-de-sac at the end was designed, and the grading for that extension was also designed and detailed out. And as you can see, that extension of the cul-de-sac ends up at the north end of the site.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with new information that we received were the lines in red that show the expansion of the existing stormwater pond. That is also going to take up part of that site. And then we were also able to advance our design to locate the stormwater ponds necessary for the garage. And so when you show all of that, you can see that, well, we decided that it would make sense to retain the developable portion of the land to the west side of Park Center Court. So to the other side of Park Center Court, adjacent to the City Hall property and the city center, basically. So that's the reason that we don't feel like there's any necessity to enlarge those foundations at this point.
Can I ask a quick question? On the north end, would that be designated as an intersection, or do we only have one stop sign near the main entrance? So would it be two stop signs? Oh, okay. Sure.
So, Noreen said we haven't quite reached that point in the design, and that might be some of our answers to some of the other questions too, because
Okay.
as I said, we're still refining some of the
Okay.
details as we go along. Item number 3 was that we had discussed relocating the bicycle spaces to the other side of the driveway to the entrance, so that the bicycles are not crossing the vehicles when they're coming into the garage, and I believe that seemed to make sense to everybody, as well as relocating the ADA parking spaces closer to, as close as possible to the elevator and to the exits and the access points, so that we're going to retain that recommendation. Item number 4, and this one was another item that we talked about quite a lot, where we wanted to remove some of those vertical members on the garage face that were not required to meet for the structural integrity of the structure. They were mainly aesthetic. And then there was also a brick band that we had recommending taking out. But our we're here today to show you some graphics that show that taking out those vertical members is probably still good. We believe that it still looks aesthetically pleasing, but keeping that brick band on top, I think, is going to help with the aesthetics of the garage.
Sonali, can I ask, are they going to be brick or concrete, the vertical members? Okay.
So this is a rendering of what we're considering.
Okay.
So the bottom is the new and the top, it would be the
Right,
original.
This would be, we had 11 verticals,
Mhm.
and this has 6.
Is that top, now moving on to the top of the brick, is that on top, is that concrete as well? I see it in the
very-
rendering.
Oh, you mean the very top?
Yeah, the very top.
We had a handout during the work session.
You're right.
And we showed that, what it was going to be look like, or what it would be looking like,
Okay.
with the combination of the brick and stone.
Okay. Got it.
So what we've done here is add in the trees and the streetlights, because the previous rendering on the bottom was absent those things. So it really wasn't an apples to apples comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've added those in and made some adjustments.
Okay.
And then item number 5, we are still considering combining the staircase and elevator on the southeast side of the garage. This is, the direction that we would give our consultants to incorporate that into the final design. So we don't have the design done yet, but that's what we will be moving forward with. And then, as we had talked about, initially we had shown a truss bridge for the pedestrian bridge, but now all of our bridges are going to be deck plate girder bridges.
Mm-hmm.
And Dallas is going to talk a little bit more about that. But that is a VRE standard that we have now adopted, so that's what we're going forward with.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you for the realignment of the cul-de-sac, that it even looks more streamlined, and I'm sure that will help when development comes. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
it give us more land
Yes,
to work
yeah,
with, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
The aesthetic definitely is an improvement.
Yeah.
We
We
like
We
it.
appreciate that, and we went to great lengths, you may, Sonali didn't get into details there, but we're actually, at one point in the design, there were 3 ponds, one at the north of the garage, one at the south end of the garage, and one on that west face to take the water off the roadway. Basically, what we ended up doing to increase the amount of developable land on that western face, combine them all into one larger pond on the northern end, which then reduced the ability to expand, what we think is a better solution. So that's all part of the process, as you gain that information and align the priorities, right? It seemed to us that it was a priority to save developable land. That was more important than being able to expand the garage, perhaps. So those are some of the weights weighted priorities that we have to take into consideration. So with that, I thought it would be useful, when we came last time, we had a rendering of a previous, very early rendering, rendition of what the bridge might look like. What we want to share with you is our standards, kind of where we are in a lot of other places prior to becoming here, one of which is Quantico. We're currently at VRE stations at 90% design. We're actually starting some temporary construction in the next couple of weeks, but at 90% design, looking to complete this year, which has it's 3 towers for a reason, because we have, the track is separated with a center platform and the existing station. But you can see this is a deck plate girder structure with the verticals and the canopy and the wire mesh, all of the things that we've talked about. There are architectural treatments to those elevator towers, if you will, stair towers / elevator towers. In this case, we've made a point to, because of the historical nature of the existing station, which is there today, trying to match the architecture of all of that together, making it all look like it should end together. So, but again, it employs the wire mesh that we talked about last time and deck plate curtain. Okay. Similarly, if you will, at 60%, and again, the point is, at various stages along the design process, we can do check-ins and sort of evaluate some of these matters. This is Lorton Station. We are currently at 60% design with this facility. We asked our consultants to prepare a simple rendering based on our models, our CAD files. Again, deck plate girder bridge, vertical columns, flat canopy, relatively flat canopy, I should say, flatter than our station canopies, and the wire mesh, all of which goes together nicely. And this one doesn't have the color treatments, and we haven't really looked at all of that. One of the things we like to do is to harden the first 10 or 12 feet with a split face CNU, which looks real nice. You've probably seen it in walls and other nice features. band it nicely, and then use some sort of cladding above that, depending on the color scheme that goes with the architectural theme around, in and around the stations. That's what we like to work with. So this again is another rendering of another facility similar to what would be used here at Manassas Park. And then for matters, we talked a little bit about Wheelie Avenue the last time we were in Wheelie Resting East. I made it a point, I went out last week and just took some photographs, right, to give you what that passenger experience might be like from within the pedestrian bridge, seeing what the wire mesh looks like. So this is a stainless steel wire mesh. It's not chicken wire, it's not fencing, it's very hardy material. It varies, and what they've done here, which we'd like to emulate, is they've used different patterns of it, if you will. You can have a long and short sort of rectangular pattern that can be turned in different directions or use different sizes for a nice treatment of it. But from our perspective, in the long-term serviceability, it doesn't have to be painted, it doesn't have to be cleaned, and you can't put anything through it, it won't be broken. Again, we're talking about heavy-duty stainless steel wire mesh. It looks very nice, and it's long-term serviceability. And you can see from the passenger standpoint, it's a very, I won't say inviting, but it's not confining in any way either. I think it looks very nice.
So for Manassas Park, for the garage, for the bridge, will imitate more or less this design?
It would be identical, in fact, almost identical to that structure and that structure, depending on the treatments. But look, if you will, only at, the part to look at really is
The mesh.
this part here.
Right.
It's hard to see the mesh there.
Right.
But there is mesh shown, if you get up close, you can see on the screen. But this is the bridge part, and yours would be a
Right.
garage here and a station here. But the part that we're really looking at is the part
Will it still contain those vertical bars
vertical.
and the horizontal bars?
The glass.
These,
Yes.
those are vertical, those are structural elements. They hold up the canopy.
Okay, so it'll
They're not
contain that as
bars. They're
well?
Like a 6x6 or an 8x8 steel columns that are painted and hold up the canopy.
So it'll contain that as well? And the horizontal ones?
The horizontal is not a bar, that's a handrail. That's meant to represent the handrail,
No, from the other design, you mean, right? The diagonal.
Yeah.
not the diagonals.
Not
No?
the diagonal?
Don't need the diagonals and don't want the diagonals.
Okay.
So that's Lorton, that's our design for Lorton as well, the vertical columns, if you will, that hold up the canopy, and the wire mesh and the handrail. So I think what you're speaking to is this member here. These members are only there because this is a truss.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
These are
okay.
structural, in fact, I would offer that these are maybe architectural, these are definitely structural members. We will have this member, but not these members, don't need them.
First, I thought they were treatment. I didn't think
Oh,
they
it's like a-
This one may actually be a treatment.
It's like hybrid.
I didn't design it, yeah, it's a weird hybrid.
Yeah, okay.
You notice they're not, you can't even see the connection details there, it's probably cosmetic. But we don't need a truss, structurally speaking, and don't want a truss because it's fracture proof.
Designed to give like a modern feel
Yeah.
to the new metro station.
These are still very modern, if you will, in the sense of they're, again, we haven't built one yet, is the problem. We don't have one to show you that we've built,
Right.
but we like elements of what we saw from Willie Avenue, especially the wire mesh members, if you will, and the treatment.
Because I recall you saying you could do a girder with treatments that appear to be truss.
Right, is what we were told, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't see the need to do that, again, from extra members, additional weight, additional members that would have to be painted and maintained. So we have the vertical columns that look nice as well.
So this is the most efficient and the least expensive regarding maintenance.
That is true.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I can see the really hybrid becoming outdated over time.
In fact, there are some people amongst us that do not like the Wheelie Avenue trusses. They,
Yeah.
for that very reason, it's kind of like 70s architecture. It'll get
Right.
dated really
I
quickly.
agree. I like these pictures. I think these are much better than what was at the work session, and I think this is fantastic.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It's a direction, we have a lot of, we think, of good, from constructability, getting it physically built, maintaining it long-term. Just inspecting these bridges is a lot easier, right? We don't have to shut down traffic, which is different under a highway. You can divert a lane of traffic pretty easily. You cannot divert a train track very easily. So We have lots of good reasons to go this route, but we want them to look nice too. We want it to be a good
Right.
experience for our passengers. We want to get them safely from the garage to the platform and back home every night. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish. I think this one tells the story best, and I think the fact that we've gone to measures to do architectural treatments to the columns, to the stair towers, makes the point too. And they'll be different slightly because that's sort of, it's like picking the color of your car, right? You choose the leather seats and the color you want kind of thing. So we'll put all that together closer to the end, all part of those design refinements.
Dallas?
But when we look at the Quantico Bridge, we can say that ours could resemble that.
In some ways.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
the bridge itself will be almost identical. It's the treatments that you might get. This one, I will tell you that Quantico, we went to great measures here because there's at the existing station that we've been there, the station right here, you see the front side of the station has this 50s style sort of canopy. It's a flat edge. It's not cantilevered or sloped in any way. It's this nice flashing, metal flashing. We tried to emulate that not only with our bridge, but also with the canopies themselves. So it really goes together. Whereas the Lorden one, for instance, if I go to Lorden, we don't have that historical nature of it, but we have canopies that we've designed and built at Lorden. If you've been out there lately, it looks really nice. I encourage you to go take a look at it. It's got a nice sort of platinum finish. I'll call it, tundra is the color we use, but it's a platinum sort of colored roofing with a sharp navy blue. It's called Timic navy blue. It's sort of a blue-gray color. Looks really nice together, and we'd like to emulate that there with this structure.
And then going to the stair tower, is that going to be enclosed or is that going to be open?
So what we do is a similar treatment for those as well. It's kind of hard to see it from that angle. We
Right.
like to cover stuff. We like to keep it covered for snow and ice.
Right.
So it'll have a roofing on it, similar like this, on the part that comes down on the station side. Remember, your structure, your bridge will go directly into the garage. So it won't have stairs at the end of the bridge. It'll go
Right.
into the garage
Okay.
and then go down the stairs.
Got it.
When it's on the platform side, it'll have a set of stairs about the same height. It'll have two landings here. And we use a wire mesh so that people can't throw stuff over and fall over, more importantly.
Right.
It'll have the similar vertical treatments on this face here as you have right there.
That's killing it.
Okay? I think that's it for me. Thank you all again.
No, thank you.
Oh, one more question, Sonali. Will there be rooftop parking?
Yes, there is parking on the top deck with the garage.
Okay, and I visited two garages, the Manassas garage and the Woodbridge VRE garage.
Yes.
And inside the Woodbridge VRE garage, they had on each level different colors on their, it's like on their pillars, I guess to indicate, which is ridiculous. Are we going to have the same? It was like purple and yellow.
We haven't quite got there, but wayfinding, yes, that is important. And
I just wanted to know what's the reason for that. I didn't.
Do you remember what floor you parked on?
Yeah.
Got it.
Remember colors and stuff like that, it matches.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's too early in this design to decide that.
got it.
But the point I think you're making is that people need to be able to recognize where in the garage they are and where they
Right.
need to go.
Okay.
And that is definitely an important consideration, whether we do it with colors or what, we haven't decided yet.
It may be neat to use the Manassas Park colors, the high school colors. That'd be kind of cute.
Black and gold.
Are there
Black
any
and
other,
gold.
any other comments?
Yes,
or-
I have a question for recommendation 4. This part, you are going to widen the grass area to allow trees to be planted. Who's going to plant the trees? Who's going to make the part? Is part of the BRE
We're speaking to the plaza area.
landscape BRE?
I think you're talking about between Park Center Court and the garage where we planted the trees to make that.
Yeah, to
northernmost
cover
area,
the,
right there, the trees.
yeah.
Yes, that will be part of the VRE project and maintaining the VRE garage.
And the light fixtures, will that match the light fixtures in the city?
Again, we haven't quite got there, but yes.
I know we've advocated for that, so.
Okay, okay, okay.
This is degradation.
So,
It needs to be
so
maintained.
the landscaping and also the maintenance of the landscaping will be the responsibility of the VRE?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
How often will it be maintained? I noticed on the Woodbridge garage, I mean, the concrete and brick, it just looked a little aged. So I was wondering,
On the garage itself?
yes, on the exterior. I looked at all sides.
Can we get back to you
Okay.
in writing, because I'm not quite sure.
Okay. All right.
Any
So
other,
the question was, how often will the facade be maintained?
Right. Because that's one of the things I noticed, it was concrete, and concrete can show a lot of aging quickly versus brick, but brick also shows aging. And so I just want to know how often it's going to be maintained.
Okay, we can get back to you on our maintenance.
You're not going to be out there with the
are
power
there
washer?
any other questions or comments?
Where are we at on the process? Are we at 60%? Is that where we are?
We are between 30 and 60%.
Okay.
You said in your email you anticipate 60% by the summer?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay,
By fall,
okay.
and I can share these slides. I'm sorry, we didn't have, we were working on them until the last minute.
And according to the schematic that Doug Allen provided, the garage will be moved over slightly?
Yes, so that, I'm not sure that was actually presented here, but
Right.
this was an internal process. You know, like I mentioned, we've been
Sure.
going back and forth on different decisions, and that was, you know, after we heard at the workshop what some of the priorities were, and making sure that some of this land could be given out to, for development.
Right.
We reconfigured that. So there actually is a water line. You want me to point that out?
Just quick, if I can, I mean, again, as part of that development, moving through this design process, we've identified, you know, whether it's an easement or utilities, or an easement because of the utility. We found stuff here, we found stuff here, and looking at how we can get, there's actually sewer and water going to this adjacent property through here. So basically, we've shifted everything, and it's kind of a rock and a hard place. You got the railroad on one side, you got these utilities on the other, you need enough room for your drainage, and oh, by the way, you gotta put a road in. So we've kind of maximized all of that three-dimensional chess move of all of those things to get what we think is the final location of the building. And then once you have X and Y, then we can work on the elevation. Once we got the elevation laid out, then we can lay out the drainage. And that's where we are.
And Councilmember Machado wanted to confirm that it made no difference in the number of spaces contained within the garage.
Moving basically that same chess piece everywhere it's the same size.
Okay.
Just to verify, it's shifting to the right then?
It shifted, actually, it started about here, shifted up, over, and down, and then we kind of brought it back to this point.
Got
So
it.
it's we hope it's the final spot, but it's the
closer.
third location.
Are we going to have to extend the platform when the bridge connects?
Yes, the platform will be extended at least to capture the bridge portion coming over and the staircase coming down. So the staircase, it's not shown, basically the bridge will be right about here in this corner, right? And the platform ends, say, right here somewhere. So we'll have to extend out and be able to run our stairs back this direction.
Okay.
So yes, it'll be extended.
Okay.
By how?
Which is what we want anyway. We're doing platform extension projects elsewhere, like Lorton, for instance, so we can land more cars on the length of the platform.
All right.
And moving the garage is good for our riders too, so they have to walk shorter distance to the garage.
Hey, Dallas, is the girded, going back to the bridge, I'm trying to foresee, like, even like a snowstorm or it's snowing, and will snow still be able to get on the stairs and on the bridge still, or is the girded
Specifically
mesh?
asked the folks, there was maintenance security people both at the one at Wheelie,
Mhm.
and they do very little snow removal.
Okay.
Actually. We salt our structures inside and out, stairs and bridges regardless, basically. Part of the design process is our old bridges don't have scuppers where we can wash them down and wash off the salt once or twice a year.
Right.
So we're designing for all of that. In fact, we're adding water spigots at each elevator lobby so they can plug in a hose and hose everything down and clean it off because we use the salts.
Is the mesh so small that snow can't get through, or
So it depends on the angle of the roof and how big the holes are, but basically you can get a blowing rain through it, but typically you're not getting a lot of snow and ice through it. And they come in various sizes. In fact, I have a bunch of photos if you want to look, but it's, I took my film is relative, like some of them are small openings, and this is something they've done is small opening, large opening, varying that, or varying the direction of the rectangles to give it a nice treatment from the outside.
and rain can get through? So I'm thinking if it rains and it freezes, which does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've experienced it on the
Yes.
platform.
The only way to avoid that is to glaze the whole thing, which is not something we want to do. In fact, we found that at Franconia, glazing it like we have has actually captured a lot of moist air and it's corroding the inside out. Basically, it's working its way through the system. So-
Glazing means to enclose it with
glass.
glass or plastic.
And then if you enclose it, and then do you have to heat it and cool it? That's another question. You know, there's all kinds of.
Well, the Woodbridge garage, their parking, their bridge is got this plexiglass or plastic. Is that the same situation where it's gonna need to be, as you mentioned, like glass, it's gonna,
I would offer that we own 4 bridges.
right?
3 of them are deck plate girders, 1 is not. Woodbridge is the only one that isn't, and we don't like it for a lot of reasons. That's why we want to do things differently.
Got it.
We're gonna have to do some different things to that Woodbridge structure.
Yes, yes,
Because of the way it's configured,
Mm.
or some of the reasons Dallas just said.
Yeah.
From a maintainability standpoint.
Wow.
And I think some of the other things you've already seen out there, which makes maintaining problematic, and we're resolving all of that here. We're not gonna have that.
Okay.
What we're taking is a lot of lessons learned. We have 25 years, 27 years now on those 3 of those bridges I talked about. So we actually just finished bridge inspections late this summer, right about the time we kind of got started with this. We've taken a lot of lessons from the inspection reports. Joints are in bad condition, we've got corrosion from the salts. How can we fix all that? Like how can we, now that we're building bridges again, how can we improve that and fix the old ones? And not have the same problems on our future bridges? And those are some of the solutions we've come up with.
Okay.
We really appreciate you working with us and making some of the changes that we requested. Yeah. I think we'll have a wonderful product come out of
This
this.
is definitely a better spot than where we started.
Yes.
Any other last-minute comments or
Nope, thank you.
questions?
Thanks.
We really appreciate you
Yeah,
folks
thank you so
coming out.
much to all.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't want to keep you too long because we know you live in far-flung locations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have an information item, which is new early voting requirement impact from our registrar and city manager. Thank you.
Evening, Mayor and
Thank you.
members of council. Tonight, the registrar and Jay and I are going to be briefing you on a few issues here, or one issue and how it impacts space. First, the registrar is going to talk about some new election rules that the governor just signed a couple of weeks ago and how that impacts voting throughout the Commonwealth and specifically in our city. And then Jay and I will talk about potentially some solutions that we've been evaluating, but we don't have an answer right now. So that's why this is just an information item that we're thinking about and we're talking about this right now. So I'll turn it over to Brenda to get us. I'm still a little sick, so my apologies.
No, right.
Okay, so there's the House Bill 2790 and the Senate Bill 1026. Both of those passed. Both pieces of the legislation call for the normal absentee period to start 45 days before the election. The voter can still request the ballot, but must provide an excuse. They can vote either in person or by mail. What was added to both pieces are almost exactly the same, was that starting the second Saturday before all elections, no excuse kicks in and goes for 7 days through the last Saturday before the election. During this period, the voters can come in and vote in person, and they don't need to provide a reason or even fill out an application. So it's streamlining the process. This will start with the presidential election. I've included the map for you of North Carolina from the 2016 presidential election. This was the first year they had started early voting. They call it one step, and I will skip explaining that to you. But the map shows a very important thing. The lighter colors are the percentage of turnout for the early voting. So you have anywhere from a 30% to an 80% turnout. The highest I saw was 77 to 78% turnout, which is more toward the center of the map. I picked a locality that I felt was close to us, a little bit higher than where we are, but in the future elections it probably will be what we will look like. There are 9,950 registered voters in that locality. They had 5,678 absentee, no excuse voters or early voting, sorry, there's so many different phrases out there. So they had a 57% turnout for the early voting.
Wow.
And it caused quite a problem, as you can imagine. They didn't have any proper planning in place for line control and parking issues. So they had 2 to 3 hour waits on election for the period of time. It's 18 days. In North Carolina, they do this compared to the 7 days we would be doing it. I provided you with my best guesstimate of what we can see for our presidential coming up in 2016. I am guessing that we will be at 8,300, and we expect a 77% turnout. This is par to what we had last time. Yeah, we've been steadily increasing over the past 3 presidentials. So that brings us to about 6,391 for what we expect to be absentee, or turnout, I'm sorry, the turnout for the entire election. The best case for us is that you take that number and times it times the lowest percentage that you can see, that we can see for our absentee. That gives you the 1917. We minus out 400 for mail ballots because they don't count. And then these are the 1517 for our absentee process or no excuse process. I then took a little different stance on it. There are no numbers at this point. Nobody has 7 days of no excuse, yes.
So is the 63, am I reading that right, 6391, is that total voters?
Total turnout for the city, what we expect.
Total turnout as opposed to total registered voters?
The registered is 8,300.
8,300?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So what we've done was I took and divided it into 2, because there's no way we can understand what's going to come out with the excuse versus no excuse. So I took a 25%. I think that's probably a correct number for what we're going to see with the excuses. So we think 379. You divide it by 26 days, because you take out the Saturdays and Sundays were not open, and the holidays, and that gives you 15 daily voters on average, and that's not too bad. That's something we could handle with no issue. Then you take the 75% without the excuse, and that gives you 1,137. Divided by the 7 days that you're going to be handling it, that's 162 daily average voters coming into our office. You divide it by 8 hours, and that's 20 voters per hour. Just so you can understand, we can only house 7 people in the room that we use for the heavy turnout. The room that's adjacent to us is where we set all the tables up and the booths and all those type things, so 7. So we would have to empty that space 3 to 4 times an hour to get those people through. You take it to the worst case scenario, that's the same number for the best case, you times it times the percentage, and we got 3,834 potential absentee voters. You minus the 400 just like you did on the other side, and that leaves us with 3,434 voters to handle with the excuse and without. We did the same percentage on both sides. However, with the 60% turnout, we're looking at 367 daily voters per average daily. That's astronomical for us. That's just, we can't do that. You divide it by the 8 hours and you're at 45 voters per hour. This is averages, so you can't know when a voter's gonna show up.
Right.
You can have days where it's slightly lower, and you can have days where it's floated higher up. This is what we're looking at.
And at
Just 7 consecutive days, including like Saturday, Sunday.
It's Saturday.
7 business
It
days.
starts on the Saturday, Sunday we're closed.
Okay, so it
And
doesn't
then it's
include
Monday
Sunday.
through that following Saturday.
Okay.
This is for all elections. It's not just November or presidentials. It is for primaries, it is for specials, presidential primaries, all those type things. So where we used to have 1 absentee Saturday, and we now have to work 2 plus the 7 days beforehand.
And in addition, you still have to handle voter registration because that
Yes.
ends 22 days before election day.
So we're trying to handle all of that, plus mail voting,
Right.
because they overlap. So it's,
And there's in-person voting. That's a lot.
yeah,
And you can't get anything wrong.
no, because there's no form. And that's part of the stuff we're talking about and trying to get under control in our minds.
Right.
Our system, our state system is a 2-part process. And when you get new people, typically they skip the second part because it's just intuitive to hit the home button. And you have an application and you can go back and you can find the error and you can fix it. When you have no application, you cannot make an error. So we're gonna have to create a log, we think, to keep track of it. Name, address, and an ID number, so that if we need to go back and find it, we can. This is going to be very, very cumbersome to keep track of, but it's what the legislation calls for. So,
How many people,
sorry?
I was going to say, how many people, let's say during the last presidential, how many people did you get on each of the Saturdays?
144. And
Total
that-
or each
total,
day?
Total, and most of them came in the morning before lunch. We had lines out the door, and they would sit down and fill out the form and then come up to the window. It was 144. It leveled off around lunchtime, and then it was just steady the rest of the afternoon. But it felt like more like 300, and we were really surprised when we got done and counted, went 144, you know, because you're up and down, you're up and down, you're up and down, you're back and forth, you're answering questions, you're doing all those type things. So, and looking at these numbers, it's staggering. Now, understand that it can be anywhere between the 30 and the 60% for the turnout. We don't know yet exactly what's going to come, but we know, we've looked at trends from Tennessee to North Carolina. That's why I provided that map in there to show you it could be anywhere in there.
Is, do you really foresee that many people coming in during the week when most people are working?
You don't think we're going to see that many during the week?
I don't think so. I mean, most people are going to be working.
We typically, during a normal presidential, can line up 7 to 8 people a day waiting to vote on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday. You start to see them start to get longer as the election draws clear. They don't care about that. They can sometimes take an extra morning off. Sometimes they have Thursdays off or Fridays off, and they know that's the day they're going to do it to get it out of the way.
Right.
So a lot of people do commute, and they have their kids, you know, sports and after-school activities and stuff that they know they have to participate in, and they don't have time to vote after work. So you will see them during the week.
In the month of October for personal property taxes, you see a lot of people showing up during the week, the daytime.
Oh,
A
yeah,
lot.
Especially by
definitely. It's out the door,
The
yeah.
whole city hall is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
huge lines of angry people because the lines just aren't efficient. I don't blame them for being angry, to be honest with you.
I can see why
logistic-
you've started ahead of time here. That is
Timing?
staggering. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
We have to, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff to consider. I'm gonna keep going with it to show you some of that.
Sure,
Logistically, you're
sure.
going to have them vote at their counter, or you're going to,
Not, that's the problem. and
because
that's
you
one
can't
thing.
bring them in here, because that's where the voting machines are and the materials.
You actually, they have to understand this. It's just 7 days of like election day,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you laugh.
No,
We love you, Patricia.
I've worked in the registrar's office. I've broken the elections down, and you've got the absentee voting is one election, and then general election is the other. You have to think in that manner, although they're all together. So I get it, and you have 7, you know, it's a lot.
Is it possible to have them in that room and in this room and then have it where they have to come this
I'll
way?
explain why that's not possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to understand, since some of you may,
Thank
I
you.
know some of you vote absentee, I've seen you before, some of you don't. So you get in, you come into City Hall, well, some of you go to poll. You get in line, you present your ID, the staff enters you into the state system, the voter gets their pass, they get back into another line, the voter gets the ballot, they sit to vote, they vote and then head to the scanner. Now stop, because a voter has the right to sit there as long as they want. Some people come in, you can watch them. They know exactly who they're voting for. It's a 5-minute, the 2-minute process, and they're up and out of there. Some people don't even know who's on the ballot. And they don't even know what questions are on the ballot. So they sit there for 20 minutes with the brochure trying to figure it out. Sometimes they skip it, sometimes they don't. You just never know. So they vote, they head to the scanner, they feed the ballot. If they've done it correctly, the ballot is accepted, they get their voter sticker, they go along their way. If they didn't do it correctly, either they didn't vote for a certain office or they overvoted. So they voted for more people than they should have, or a blank ballot. Then they have to go back and get a new ballot and start all over. Okay, so that's a process each voter has to go through. It is not a 2-minute process. It's more like depending on how long you're in line, but it can be a 5 or 6-minute process for us from the beginning. So understand that. Having to turn the room up 3 or 4 times, 7 times over, that's just going to be taking a while. So, issues that can slow down the absentee or in-person process. The voter comes in and they're not registered at all. Can't find them anywhere in the state, and they swear they are. The voter's at the wrong locality. We get a lot of people from Prince William County who live in adjacent, townhomes and condos and apartments. They come here. The voter is inactive, and they need to register, and or they waited so long they now can't vote. That's always a pretty picture. Tell somebody they can't vote. It's fine.
Is that because they're within the 22 days?
No,
well,
they're not active.
They're
They're off the
inactive, which
roll.
means they haven't responded to the notice we've sent for, and they've been inactive for 2 general elections. 2 general federal elections active, so 4 years. They've been inactive for 4 years. So, depends on how long they wait. There's a code that we have to follow that tells us each voter's fate. So it's fun to try and explain that. They don't have the required ID, so they must vote a provisional. You just sit and get an envelope, and they have to fill all this information, and logs get pulled out. You have a person with a disability or a language barrier, and you need to give them more time and more assistance. If they have somebody with them, there's a whole new form that has to be filled out so somebody can assist them with that process. We have now the problem of having more outside poll people showing up at our events, because normally they would have gone to the polls on election day and the officers would have handled them. Now they're coming for 7 straight days. We do have a big outside poll presence, especially for precinct 1. They can do about 70 or 80. So imagine spreading that over the period of time and having to go outside to the car, back in, back out. It's a very big process. Someone is there to register vote and doesn't even care to absentee vote. Because remember, like Preston said, we're open during the week and we're still taking voter registration while this is going on. They don't even care about the absentee process. Yeah. Voter messed up the ballot, needs a new one. The staff calls and sick and doesn't show up. That would really slow down the process because you've left people to help out. Not having enough space to handle the voting, and that's why we're here and trying to find a solution. So you can also have candidates and candidate representatives submitting or requesting information and forms, and the registrar or her staff member has to process mail ballots and take them to the post office for delivery, so that Monday and Tuesday, while all of this is going on and there's all these people in line, somebody has to stop helping the voters and process the ballots and stuff them and seal them and put the labels all over them. Then we've got to take them all the way over to the post office. So while that's happening, somebody's not helping.
You can't get pickup here?
I'm sorry?
You don't get delivery here?
No. Well, we do, but we have to do, our code says we have to hand them to the postman. We can't just put them in the box. Before we used to do receipt mails, where they had to get the little receipt and prove that you mailed, who you mailed, all the names had to be on the list and duplicate. And then we got the okay that we could go take them and hand deliver them to the postman. So every day you'll see me going to the post office, waiting in line with the other citizens, and then here. And so they take them from me. They kind of look at me like I'm insane, but it's what I have to do.
Do you have to get them hand canceled?
No, but they do, because they're going through the post office, the little Manassas Park post office. But as long as I hand it to them,
You can come down to our office, which is closer, by the way. We take mail.
we were told no.
The one on Euclid?
Yeah, we were told that you'll have to go to the old one.
No, we reopened the window 2 weeks ago, so
Okay,
just
so
for your
that's a little
benefit.
bit of a change there.
For your benefit.
We've done that before too. but- So that's stuff that can slow us down and make our jobs more difficult. I have an ask for you. This is a concept drawing. This is not what we will get. This is not the way it will be laid out. But we put in everything we thought we might need to do everything in-house. So on the right-hand side, you can see where there's numbered desk 1 through 4. Those are actually stations. So I get one, my deputy, and my other staff. We would have standing stations in the front, so when somebody comes in, we'd actually log them in on the Veris. We'd have Veris up front. And then we'd have to have line control inside the room. I mean, I don't know exactly where we're going, but we have to have line control if we don't have the ability to line them around another building that we're connected to. The back is a closed room. It is used for our CAP, which is our central absentee polling location. People actually count those ballots that you vote absentee. This is our electoral board meeting room. And on the day after, and the 4 or 5 days after the election, this is where the canvass would take place. So we can have it all in one place and set the room up differently for what we need.
How many days, I meant to ask this in your other part, is when you're doing the canvas, how many days does a voter that comes early with no ID have to bring ID for provisional ballot in the early period?
They would be given a provisional ballot, and we can accept it all the way until the Friday
After election
after
day?
the election. So typically not, if we have no photo IDs are done by Thursday tops. If we have a photo ID, we're pushed until the following Monday to get results to the state board. So, yeah.
But the people that vote early would not have less time, they would have more time. Or they could just come back and vote regular.
No, they can't. Once you cast a provisional, you can't undo it.
Right, I know that, but I'm saying is if they came in and got told, no, but they got told they'd have to vote provisional, they could just say no and actually come back later, because it would be before election day.
So you said they have till the Friday after the election, but don't you certify the election the next day?
No, well, we start doing the canvass. They start doing the provisional process. If there's anything that holds us up, like the photo ID, we have to wait till Friday. That noon is when they have, under law, to turn in an ID. Now, another thing is they can come into our office and they can get a photo ID right there if they don't have it with them, because we have a temporary paper we print out, we can give it to them and they don't have to come back and give that ID. They can do it right then and there. So, yeah, so that's also a good option for that. The office on the left-hand side is where the actual no excuse would take place. As you can see down there, there's a station for the ballot, a station for issues, and a station for the scanner itself. So we would set up for no excuse with, we're hoping, 30 stations. And we would have to have 3 people assist with those stations. While the registrars are doing stuff on the right-hand side of the standing station, checking people in and dealing with line control and other items. We've included a room for breaks in this area, because this place is not just no excuse, it is also a potential polling location. We may move our polling location from here at City Hall to this new location. Okay. It also serves as a place where we can train our officers. We can program our voting machines. We have packing cubicles, because it's not that difficult to put up some drywall. where we could actually start packing our supplies. Right now, we're having to do it at my desk, or we're having to set up tables in back, and we can see voters coming up to the front, so it gets a little bit cumbersome. We also have a space here just to keep storage, which is very important to us. We have to keep everything under lock and key. Cages, electronic poll books, our scanners. We have shelves because we have to keep certain things for long periods of time. We want a charging dock inside this room so that when we have to charge our electronic poll books, we can do so without having to sit them out in the middle of the room and doing that. Also, our bins and our various other things would go into here, and shelves and that type of thing.
Does your early voting location, must it be the registrar's office?
Got to be ADA compliant.
I didn't ask that. I know it has to, but
It's a two-part question, so yes, we have to be accessible to do that.
my question is, or where I was going with that is, can it be at a different polling location that is already a polling
Of a
location?
satellite location.
Well,
and
my thought was, is because if you're saying we don't have room at City Hall, and obviously we can't be at a school for a week, the community center is already a polling location. Could we do the early voting there since it's already a polling location?
We're talking a lot of money. We're talking staff. We're talking security. We're talking extra voting machines. We're talking storage for ballots, computer hookups, extra computers. It's a nightmare. It's a logistic nightmare. And we're trying to, as best we can, stay away from satellite locations. They may be forced on us. The state has got a working right now to come up with some solutions. We don't want to be forced into that. It's not a good place to be. If they come back and tell us we have to, that's another place we've got to find on top of where.
I'm just saying, we're already paying debt service on the community center. We don't have to pay more debt service if you go there. We're already
We'll
paying
talk
it.
about that later. It's not, the debt center is not the place where we need to be to do this. And there is no other place to go for a satellite location. You can't go to schools for 7 days, and you can't, there's no other building in the city to use for 7 days and have to pay rent or having to put all this kind of logistics into it. It's too expensive. But if we're forced to do it, we'll do it. If we're told to do it by the state, and there's like a lumber tied to it, we'll have to do it.
I mean, I'm just saying is based on what you're telling us with space issues, that what you have isn't going to do it.
What we have now, no, it's not gonna do it. And that's why we're here, just to give you an update of what's coming. We're trying to get out ahead of it before we get under it. So 7 people at a time is not gonna handle it. Now, I'm not worried about like a primary or special, those types
Right,
of
those are
we can
tiny,
handle that.
those are tiny, yeah.
But this is like the bigger ones, like the midterm we would have been rolled over 10 times over if this had happened with the midterm, the turnout we had. We had 55% turnout. That's unheard of for a midterm. So, but 77%, 7 at a time, it isn't going to happen. We tried to come up with different scenarios here at City Hall to keep us here. So we really don't want to move unless we have to. It's very costly and time consuming.
Just so I understand your question, Donald, are you asking, does the early voting site have to be the same site as the registrar's office?
Right.
Is that
was one
a
of my
requirement or no?
It's not, you have to have the registrar's office open to do it, yes. But you can have an additional site. It's called a satellite location.
Right.
It's not a requirement. They're working out the requirements as we speak. So, like I said, that you can do satellite. Usually it's up to your board or it's up to the state.
So I guess
We've not been told yet.
you would, if you were, just to get where you're going at, if you were going to do early voting in the community center, you still have to man the registrar's
Yes,
office.
yes.
So now you're talking about a lot additional staff. Yeah.
Right, but it sounds like you need a lot of staff anyway.
Yes.
And you're gonna need parking, which community center has, and
Okay, so,
during the day it does.
yeah.
I just want to understand your question before we get to the.
Well, that was one of them, yes. And the second part of that question is why don't you permanently move there? And not be here, since this space doesn't meet your needs, based on even
Can
the
we
best case
wait, because
scenario.
we're going to get to the community center.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we are looking for increasing staff, obviously.
Good job.
So it would be the director, the deputy director, typically around a presidential, goes to more hours starting in July. And then she would be working full-time for the no excuse, obviously. We want to hire one full-time year-round permanent assistant registrar so that she can help deal with this, also with the incoming workload that we have to deal with. She would be doing the day-to-day operations. We would kick in and help her when stuff becomes overwhelming, and it does for the presidential. But there's a lot of stuff we need to handle now, more of a director's role than before. Before everybody wore all hats, now we're gonna have to change our priorities and procedures within our office from ground up. So, 3 temporary full-time officers during the no excuse, and yes, we would need to pay them. They would work that Saturday through the following Saturday. They would be doing officer positions, so they don't need to be trained on our state system. That would be time consuming. What they would be doing is giving out the ballots, what they normally do on election day. They would be assisting voters with issues and giving them new ballots if they spoil them. And they would also be making sure the ballot gets in the scanner before they leave. That's stuff they do normally. They're already trained for it, and yes, we would pay them. But that was a great way to, hopefully we'll get some interest in it that way.
Do you think that you have current trained people that already worked for you on election day that would expand, let's say maybe they're retired, and they would expand to do the full 7 days prior?
My staff now?
The people that work, let's say, at the precincts?
Yes, yes.
Do you think that you would have enough people interested in the current people that work on election day that would then work the 7 days as that you need for the temporary people?
We're hoping. We're gonna be letting them know what our plans are in June when we do our training. I can think there'll be 2. If not, we're gonna have to recruit and find a 3rd person. The 3 people is essential, and I'll show you why in just a minute. We
Is the
yes.
state providing any funding? Okay.
Just for,
Jeanette, that's such a silly question. Of course they're not.
Oh, but we don't know, so we ask.
Yeah, it's just, it's
is
crazy.
That, will the budget cover this extra personnel?
Yeah, to answer your question, we don't have a solution yet for the space issue, but for the personnel, that is something that we already have, that I already put in the budget model.
Yeah.
You'll see that in the FY20 budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will pull on our electoral board members. We have 3 of them, as they are able to help during the weekends as extra help. Most of them have full-time jobs. And before it was easy to get that help, I'm not so sure now. So we will, an extra person is an extra person, so. The worry we have is that somebody could call in sick or have a doctor appointment, and that not all the stations that we have to have will be manned. That's our main concern. The next slide shows another breakdown of the office, but if you think about the 6 people we want to use, the 3 stations take up 3 people automatically, the ballot, the issue, and the scanner. And then you go back up, and you have the registrar and the 2 people working with her checking voters in. So at some point, somebody's gonna have bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, some point, somebody then come in, that extra little person is gonna be filling in. If there's line control issues in the hall, if somebody comes in and needs to have an outside poll, that person's pulled away. And what do we do on election days when we have to do the mail? When someone has to step away from the counter to help while there's a line. It could take an hour and a half to 2 hours to process the mail out space sometime in the past. So that's why we have 6 people. Now, we don't expect to have those officers helping us unless some of them want to volunteer in future elections, like the June. We think we can handle that since the turnout is so low. But what we don't know is presidential primaries. We don't know the midterms. So we're going to have to wait a few couple years to see what happens with that part of the process.
Unknown. There's a lot of unknown because we just don't know how many people are going to show up, and you have to kind of plan for some. Could be almost nobody, or it could be just, oh wow, no excuse, let's show up. And
Your full
The
367 daily.
workload is also going to be putting forward, if any, more legislation that will be coming in the next session or things they see as potential problems or solutions. They're coming back to speak with the Senate, the governor on December of this upcoming year. They have a plan in place by December, so they're working feverishly to get that information. So each month they meet and they come up with some more solutions and more legislation, and we may see more. I'm thinking in the next few years it's going to go from 8 to 14 or 21 days. It's going to be expanded because when you shove everybody into 8 days, you're going to have lines. So.
You cannot, under what we have now passed, you cannot come in on the Monday before Election Day, the day before, let's say, and do no excuse.
No.
You could come in on Monday and do an excuse on the regular form.
An emergency only. The Monday before the election, it's only under extreme emergencies. You will get grilled by us because it is a very bad idea to be trying to issue this when we're trying to get out stuff. So
Right, okay.
it's only under extreme emergency that those are issued. And it would be excused. There's a lot of little pieces we're trying to figure out, but.
Yes, all right.
Do you think you're going to get a change in the 2020 assembly, or what it may change what we just got shown in the model? Do you foresee that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're gonna do. They're very quiet. I don't think there's gonna be anything major with the legislation this upcoming year. I think it's gonna stick to what it is so we can see what happens during the presidential, to see what the turnout is, and then I think they're gonna go back after that. And then work on it, so.
When I get into that part, can you talk about what the other jurisdictions are?
Yes, okay, I did talk to my neighbors. I don't like to talk about my neighbors because I think that's kind of rude when they're in the same class as I am. So we're going to talk to 3 localities that are similar to us. One of them is in complete denial of potential turnout.
Oh my gosh.
One of them is in the same spot we are and is feverishly trying to find a room. And it's in the same place we are. There's just not a lot of options. And the third person is currently undergoing some renovations to their current, to their previous location, and they're in conditions that are not favorable. But they did not say if they would be asking for more space or not. Most registrars are. Most registrars are afraid to come before their governing bodies and ask for it.
Oh, you're always welcome to.
Well, I always have. You always listen to being asked questions, and I'm very appreciative of that. Some registrars are afraid to speak to their governing body and tell them what they want me.
Oh, my goodness.
That's awful.
You think there's going to be?
It's awful.
You think there's going to be some localities on November 5th, 2020 that are going to be on the news for not the right reason?
Well, and the problem was they did this early, so we had time to prepare. But if you're not going to come before you want to be honest, how can they be prepared when it hits? So they're going to get bad, like you said, bad news after, and they'll look really bad, like it failed. And it can be a good thing for our voters to be able to come and not have to provide a reason. People lie now on the forms, we see it all the time. It's like, when's election day? I know I'm not going to be here, so.
That's really bad.
So, you know the line, you just love me, you can't stop it.
The turnout number that you gave, was that you said that was the 16 number?
I'm sorry?
Was the 77%, was that the 16 number?
That's what we're expecting for 18, or sorry, 16, yes. It's based on the 2012 number. We had 77% in 2012. It's been steadily increasing. It hit 77. So we use that percentage for the upcoming election. It could go higher.
That's a high voter turnout. That's nice.
But if you have no excuse, it could be even higher.
There's a misconception about that because people think, okay, we have no excuse, now we're going to increase our voter turnout. That's not what happens. You just change the way the people vote. Your numbers don't go up in maybe a % or 2, but what happens is they vote differently. They're excited about their excuse. So they didn't maybe read it, they just want to come and see what it's like.
Are you shifting people to the early no excuse instead of election day?
Right.
Is this going to increase your costs for instance, you have to have a technician at least on call in case anything goes wrong if you're a scanner?
Oh, that's you.
That's
One
you?
of my hats.
You're a
And I do my
technician?
scanner. I know how to do with these
Wow,
things.
I mean, that's great.
I've been trained on my scanners, I know what to do with them.
Okay.
I'm not like 100%,
Mhm.
but I do have a vendor that I can call and go, hey, we had this happen, and I've
Mhm.
never seen this before, what do I do? So they will walk us through it, but again, it's a good point, because we have election day coverage for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna charge us more to have that for 7 days, so that is a good point, we didn't think about that. But, yeah, that's a different, they're usually really good, if you call and ask some questions, they usually want to help us out.
Okay, that's good.
I'd also just mention if you're looking for more staff, which is great, is to have the office open till 5 o'clock, because it's currently only open to 4:30. If you're going to have additional staff, that you could actually do more full day of the city.
Now, there's a couple of things we're gonna have to go through, and I did put it in the slideshow, if we do move us and just the cap and not the precinct, there's options all over the place, but if the cap gets moved, we have to go through an ordinance change. Because in the ordinance, it says the cap is in City Hall, and that's just part of City Hall. If we move the registrar's office, the cap, which is associated with us, is no longer in City Hall, so we'd have to go through that. If you want me to stay within the 5, we have to go through changes. And so if we're going to go through an ordinance change, I have to talk to my board, but it's something we can think of. Partly, to be honest, when we close at 4:30, I can run to the post office
Mm-hmm.
and get the ballots in before the 5 o'clock. You close to your 5, I'm not getting them in until the next day. So it's kind of helped us out in the past. I usually leave here and drive over if I don't have staff working on those days to get the ballots out. So you put me to 5 o'clock. If I have somebody manning it, then.
Well, and I don't know that we should be micromanaging when she opens
Right.
and closes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think though, just the point is that there was the comments in the past
Yeah.
that because you worked by yourself,
Just so
that
you understand, Barbara did bring up a good point. The code also changed this year that if, and not that we would never do this, but when you have lines that long, we have to stay open on every day for the 45 up through the 7 days until the line is handled. Every day. So we can't, it's not just 5 o'clock. If there's 200 people in line at 4:30, we're stuck there till those 240 people are served. No, we would normally do that on the Saturdays, but, and any day, we don't have people come in, but when you see 240 people.
This is completely different than election day in a polling place. This is a different rationale.
Yeah.
Who's making these rules? Because it's not consistent.
Yeah, because we could be there one day until 4:30, we could be there till 7.
Yeah.
And then the staff who's helping you is gonna have to understand, the officers, that you're there till it's over, you can't just walk out. Some of those people are not, may not be able to do that.
And that's when accidents happen or mistakes happen when people are tired and it's been a long day.
You don't wanna wear them out too much, because
Right.
they're gonna be working the presidential itself. But you gotta take the other flip of the equation, and I'll let you do that yourself, but what that does to your precincts. So-
Right.
Thank you, Patricia.
So, yeah, I was also shocked at how little support we get from the state. We get all these mandates to do these elections and we get very little financial support, which is a shock to me. There's a few things I don't like to kind of play around with: emergency management, public safety, and elections. I think we need to do elections right. I never want to be accused of us kind of not preparing and disenfranchising voters. So I appreciate Patricia coming in very early in this process and keeping me informed about what was happening in the state, what the worst case scenario was, what the potential budget impacts that we're going to do. So we've been talking about this now for a while, and I had the same kind of thought process as you. Okay, sounds like we're going to have to evaluate the community center. So Patricia and her team met with Jay and I at the community center, and we did an evaluation of whether this makes sense. I have 3 slides. If you guys can ask questions just about kind of clarifying what I'm saying and what's on the slide, not yet on kind of ideas. Let me get to the end, and then we can talk about whether, disagreements with kind of where we're going and some of the ideas. But first off, I just want to kind of go over what's happening at the community center right now and what the potentials are. And up here, what we did is we did show kind of how the current election day works, but also Jay's going to walk you through what's happening throughout kind of this facility. And you can see that yellow box on the top right, that's initially where we kind of identified that maybe we can get this to work, so.
Okay.
Somebody's gonna be walking through the
Good evening,
door or not.
So I wanted to just take a moment to go over the outline of the community center here, and kind of go through the background and go through each individual space and kind of go over the intended purpose of those spaces and kind of how they've historically been used in the past and how we've been using them. I'll start on the far left, bottom left. That's our admin wing. All of our admin offices are housed in that part of the facility. If you go directly above that, that's our pre-function area. To the right of that is our banquet hall. That's where, you know, we've had, since we've been open, we've had the election. We've utilized those spaces for that very purpose. If you go down that hallway just a little bit on the far right of the banquet hall, the egress there, we've actually been able to set up stanchions there to kind of direct all the traffic. We go in where the arrows point into the room. When necessary, they've used the pre-function as kind of overflow. You go into the banquet hall, vote, come out the egress on the right-hand side, and then circle back to where the arrows are to exit. So it's been nice because what it's been allowed us to do is kind of keep everything down at that one end of the building, and it really had minimal impact on the rest of the facility.
What you said. Down this way.
Yep,
Because this is the
absolutely.
main entrance right here.
So if you go up the hallway to the right of the banquet hall, right there at the corner, as you're making that left, you have two small conference rooms. Those are used primarily for meeting spaces and a lot of classroom space, rental space. We use those a lot for faith-based organizations. We use those for meeting spaces. We've used those for community services such as like Beacon, where we've done ESOL classes, things of that nature. Again, those are pretty small spaces. We have a maximum capacity of 15 in those rooms. If you go up that hallway.
And just before you
Sure.
proceed, just for clarification, so in the diagram that Patricia showed, that's roughly around 4,500 square feet. These two combined, what were they, Jay? It was around 1,900?
One's about 730, the other's about 760.
Yeah, so you're talking about 1,500 square feet here for these two combined, so you can see kind of just for, comparison's sake, what the size of the other ones is.
Well, say what the other ones were again. How many square feet?
This was, what, 700 and?
Yeah, like a little over 700, the other's
Yeah.
about 760.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're talking about 1,500 roughly for this yellow area.
I thought he said square footage for the other rooms. I'm sorry, I misheard.
So as you go up that hallway by the banquet hall, to the left you have our catering kitchen, and then the larger space you see at the very top, basically the square, is our mechanical room. So again, this is space that's not really usable to the public. To the right, you've got our basketball courts and the gymnasium. And then if you come back down that hallway and start at the bottom left again, just right of the admin wing, these are, everything on the left side of the main entrance at the rotunda there are classrooms. So the first classroom there is for our kids' corner. That's our child care program. We also use that as overflow for extended care, and it's also utilized for rental space. The next two classrooms are our licensed preschool program. Those are solely used for that purpose, for preschool, Monday through Friday. The next two classrooms are 4 and 5. Those are used primarily for extended care before and after, pick up and drop off, or drop off and pick up. They're also used for rentals in the evenings, very frequently. Those are two of our more popular spaces. And then the last classroom, before you get to the rotunda, is our teen center, which also doubles up from 9 to 2 as our buddy passport program space, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Once you go past the front desk to the right, those 3 rooms are all wellness-based spaces. You've got your group exercise studio first, and then you've got the 2 wellness center spaces. And that gets us to the end of the hallway. So if you go above the rotunda, going back towards the outlined yellow teaching classrooms, you've got a data room, and then you've got your pool entrance that also houses locker rooms and family changing rooms, and then the indoor pool. So the only space that we really kind of designated as maybe a feasible option for kind of available standalone space would be the 2 teaching classrooms outlined in yellow. again, like Mr. Falco mentioned, you know, you're looking at, you know, 730, 760 for those two rooms. They both have closets, fairly small closets. We use for storage currently for program purposes. But those are kind of the two spaces that are not, that are, you know, connected and would provide, you know, somewhat ample amount of collective space. So if we were to, you know, transition those two teaching classrooms, you know, into, you know, from Parks and Rec space to the Registrar's office, there would be several impacts, both financial and service related in nature. Collectively, we're looking at just under 500 annual cancellations a year just in terms of program classes. And that basically consists of 10 unique programs. And again, 476 actual classes that would have to be canceled. In addition, we're looking at 80 days of swim team. This is the Manassas Park High School swim team, dry land training that would be canceled. 30 summer camp days, which consists of 6 5-day camps. 4 small special events, 4 partnership meetings, 2 of our large swim meets that we have annually, and an estimation, at least going into FY20, of about 135 facility rental dates.
Oh.
Collectively, you're looking at 731 annual cancellations throughout the year, and then fiscal impact of just over $30,000.
Goodness.
One thing I kind of wanted to note of increased significance, you know, our All Access Passport is our kind of all-inclusive membership that includes about 1,200, well, I'm sorry, it includes over 1,000 total programs. We offer about 1,200 programs a year, but the All Access includes about over 1,000. 43% of our member base is All Access. We're looking at a 39% decrease to those classes. So those individuals are going from, you know, having access, you know, they're down well below, they would, you know, have access to well below what they're used to having at this time.
Okay.
So I do think there would be a residual impact there in terms of that membership would not be nearly as attractive. And you would see a definite decrease in those membership sales. And then the rental impact, we found that through the years, a lot of our faith-based organizations like to rent the teaching classrooms because of the fact that their proximity is away from everything else. On that main wing, when we have 2 classrooms together, despite the fact that we have a wall that we can put up, there still can be, you know, some residual sound coming from the adjacent room. These classrooms are down by themselves, kind of at the end of the building, and they provide it's a little more soundproof and allows them to have a little more privacy. So that's something that we actually just signed a 6-month contract with a local church group for both teaching classrooms just a few weeks ago.
Boy, that would be a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
I mean, cancellations and financial.
Because we're going to be missing the consistency that, you know, any clients won't like,
That's a great impact analysis. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah. Wow. Would you be able to forward that to us in case we forget just how great the impact? Thank you.
Other issues too, thank you very much, Jay. And Jay kind of walked me through it when we kind of, you know, walked the site. And there's other issues too. When you talk about the specific wet room area, sorry, I'm gonna leave the microphone, but if you're talking, just for reference, we're talking about this area right here.
Right.
The parking, right? We're not sure this is enough parking when you're talking about that amount of voter turnout as well. You're not gonna have people kind of walking here. And I'll talk about why you want access there. So you're probably gonna have to already invest in a little additional parking down in this area to make sure that you have enough parking for voters. The reason why as Jay just mentioned, you wanna kind of close off that area. Because right now, everyone that goes through the front desk, you have to have a membership to use the facilities, right? So if you're gonna have people coming to vote, I don't want to be turning people away or saying, hey, I'm going to go I need to see the registrar's office to register for voting. Where's your membership to go in the community center? you're not gonna ask them that, you gotta let them go unless we're gonna be disenfranchising voters here.
Yeah.
And then, now who's to safeguard that, okay, now I'm gonna go see the registrar, I'm also gonna use the basketball, then I'm gonna go use the weights.
I would
I'm
do
gonna use the pool,
I would
right?
do that, yeah.
So you really have to kind of keep this, what other uses you're gonna do at the community center that are not the community center itself are really gonna have to be segregated, so you have to kind of close that area off, which means you're gonna have to do some infrastructure improvements, parking, walkways, to give people access. Another problem too, speaking with Jay, is a lot of the loading and unloading, so the trucks will go back here as well to do a lot of that, so you're talking about people kind of walking here, so you wanna make it safe for voters as well. So those were kind of the big issues. That was kind of our first thought, maybe we can do it there, but when we started really evaluating the entire process, we didn't think it was such a good idea, and it would cause a lot of problems for both Jay managing the community center and also for Patricia trying to run her operations. And so at this point, I don't have a good answer for you.
How many square feet do you have now?
Over 600.
Okay.
And storage in the back. You can't put it all in.
Okay. And
Right, 'cause I
what do
saw
you
that.
need? How much do you need?
So that previous,
Like what, 4,000 or something?
4,500.
4,500.
Because there's a polling location included in it. That's including a large chunk of the mixed-use area.
So the only thing I was really thinking of that I need to explore more is potentially a modular building, because let's say long-term, right? If we're gonna have a new city hall as part of the downtown development, right? We're gonna have to now plan for this space in the future, for this voting facility. In the interim, once this is being torn down, we would have to find a temporary solution anyways for the registrar. We're also gonna have to find one for the treasurer and the commissioner of revenue. Other central staff can work remotely and have kind of shared working space, maybe at the police station or somewhere else where we can do mail and other things, right? So most employees can do work remotely. But treasurer, commissioner of revenue, and registrar and permitting are gonna need some kind of customer
Front facing, yeah.
a temporary solution, right?
What-
So that's where I was thinking, instead of having them move a few times, essentially they would have to move twice. Once to a temporary kind of modular building in the interim, and then once the new city hall is put in place, then they would move into the city hall. But we'd have to design the concept to match this requirement as well.
I wonder if there would be any grants available for the modular? Are there any grants related to voting?
I don't know. I mean, this
Yeah.
is something I think you should always bring up to our congressional representation, why the federal government doesn't need more funding for elections. I just don't understand it.
What about, I know, and I don't want to say the other party because it was closed session, but what about,
Yeah, I know.
so the social
Yeah.
services space? I don't want to say the other part, but I don't know if we've executed that agreement or not. Would that be a space to move them and keep them in the same building, but they would just move to a different side of the building where they'd actually also have their own entrance?
It could work, but we'd have to do a structural analysis of the walls. That's the problem. Because it's not open space, it's a bunch of little offices. So we'd have to see what's structurally supporting and what's not. It'd be a lot of work too. And so we'd be losing the potential revenue and now spending a lot on redoing something just for a few years if downtown development does happen anyways.
How much space do you estimate that is?
The social services, that's around, I don't know, top of my head.
Is it like 1,000? Is it like
No,
2,000?
oh God. I would have to look it up.
Is
Can I
it-
get back to you on that?
Is it, well, how about this? Is it bigger than the space at the community center?
Oh, yeah.
The 1,500 square feet?
It's bigger than 1,500.
Yes, oh, yeah, it's much bigger than 15. I don't want to say a wrong number.
No, it's fine. Just as long as you can say that it's bigger than.
Yeah.
And it's much bigger than what you have now.
But has lots of
It's a
small
lot of
rooms.
little office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not doable.
Well, you could put voter desks and things in there, and people could walk into a room. and
But
walk-
you'd have to determine what's load-bearing and what's not, and then remove what is not load-bearing, and that gets expensive,
Yeah.
refinishing it.
Good idea, though.
So the thing is, if we're going to do modular building, we kind of identify locations. So I'm going to take some time and look at that option, see what's out there. in terms of cost and everything, and then present some possible locations. I think there may be another one that's opening up soon maybe, but I don't want to talk about that right now. But I think there might be some good locations where we can.
I think Council Member Shoemaker asked why we don't use this room.
And the conference room, we can
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, but that's just open space.
In the meantime, until we plan for.
I don't think I can answer that one.
Okay, we talked about that. It would come down the hall, we'd have the absentee, no excuse for the 7 days, and here, the problem is, what if somebody doesn't show up? How do I run an office from 2 rooms? The problem is you can't keep running back and forth. Your voting area, your precinct, when you go and vote, is a very big room, so the group can work together and to make things work and to see what's going on. So if somebody doesn't show up, somebody can pick up on a different piece. If you have 3 people working down here, and 1 or 2 of them call in sick, then how does the other part get down here? There's also what we call escape hatches for the voters. They check in, they get their voter pass, they come down the hall. They can walk out and cross out to the bathrooms. You now got a voter pass floating out there, and they could sell it, and they could give it to somebody else to come back in who just votes. And
That's true.
it gets real mad, and that's what I'm saying, you've got to have a visual ability to see these voters. There's 1, 2, 3 exits through the bathrooms. And again, people get very confused if you don't have somebody constantly driving them in the right direction. We can't get people to open the door on election day. They kind of like, so imagine having to deal with that on top of everything else. We're scared of somebody calling in sick, somebody having a doctor appointment. Can't get the people we need because the officers aren't volunteering, so.
What about, and I don't know, if this would be a big imposition on Jay, but is to run the no excuse and all the absentee out of the banquet hall for the 7 days.
We have the same problem we had before, no membership. People walking around the building,
No, because it would be the same place we vote on election day.
but we're not set up to vote there for 7 days. We'd have to have computer systems, and ballots would have to be secure, and voting systems would have to be locked up and opened up and locked up, and it's a big operation. It's not just like an election day where you slap 7 people in a room and call it a day.
You gotta secure it.
It's constant security. Homeland security is like all over the place, and you've got to have secure lines, you've got to have exit plans and security strategies we have to go through, and
But
it's
what
not
I'm,
as easy as.
well, what I'm thinking is that they would be the same as if you were there on election day versus if you're there the Tuesday before, because you're in the same space. You obviously have that planned out for Tuesday, November the 5th.
But they have to be secure overnight. They're not going to be in that building 24 hours a day guarding that equipment.
Right.
And then you have the people who man it. We have to man the system here because we have stuff going on here as well as there. So the minute you spread it out, the costs like balloon.
Right.
So,
But I mean,
We don't want to
Otherwise,
be
there's-
above the fold, Donald.
right, but I mean, otherwise there's no space for you.
I'll be very completely honest, this building is not the best location for the 3rd precinct. It's very hard for them to manage the people in this room and the voters out in the hallway. If you have just a scanner out there and somebody needs to go to the bathroom, it's hard for them to get, somebody's attention here without leaving the scanner. You cannot leave the scanner. So, this building is not feasible for it either, because you have the people bothering the voters trying to get in the building with yelling at them, you gotta come this way, you gotta come this way. And even people just here to pay bills are being harassed by the observers and the political people here.
Yeah,
So
but I
it's
mean,
not the best.
but we close City Hall on election day, so
No, you don't. We haven't closed it in years and years.
the last presidential we did.
That was a previous administration's wish, but it's been open since then, every election. And it's causing problems not only for us, but the treasurer and the commissioner. They had to lock their door because voters were trying to get away from the people on the corner, harassing them coming into the building. They were outside the 40 feet, but they're harassing no less. So they were trying to come in the end door, and it was disrupting all of the commissioner and treasurer's operations. So they finally locked the door down. It's causing issues. So if we can fix that issue and fix other issues while we're doing it, it's the best practice to do that. You don't want to.
I guess
This is not
it's,
gonna work. There's
How-
gonna be people who cut through constantly, trying to use the copier. It's just not feasible for 7 days of no excuse.
So how about this modular option? Is that,
We haven't even really discussed it yet.
That's why they said when they started the presentation that we don't have answers yet.
yeah.
But we need to understand the depth of the problem.
Well, thank you for telling us
Yeah.
this early.
I tried everything I can think of.
Yeah.
I've talked- There are module voting. Travel vans, they're very long and the people come into them to vote, but they're expensive to rent, but they are a temporary option. My only concern is keeping people out of the elements. That's my only concern with the modular issues, is how do you keep people.
It would have to be big.
Yeah, but yeah, how do you keep them out of the rain, snow, those type of things, if we do run into those, for the presidential primaries and stuff, so. We're trying.
we used to vote at 103 Manassas Drive and people stood outside. I remember standing outside for 2 hours in the presidential. It was the only building that we had in the city, and people, we adapted somehow.
We didn't have almost 8,000 people in the city registered at that time. It was much smaller.
Right, but you're not going to have all the people vote on the early voting either.
A lot more than I would expect, yes. Yes. But again, if you all have a better solution, I'm welcome.
Yeah, and giving us this problem early gives us
The
time.
reason why I thought about the modular building was actually my previous locality, we were looking at that for the city hall option.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Thank you.
Long-term leases or short-term leases, medium-term leases, and there's companies that's all they do is set up modular office buildings. So something I think we can look at.
I don't know that we want to get in the practice of having a double wide on the front of the city hall, though.
Yeah, that's why we had to talk about location. I think there are other location options.
I think so.
Thank you. Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and email this out.
Yeah, thank you though, Patricia.
Oh, thank you.
Masa.
This is quite a challenge we have.
Especially we don't have a lot of extra space in the city.
Right. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the corrected minutes of March 19th, 2019, replacement of an electronic message board, which was hit by a car for a total of $15,000, and the appointment of Mr. James Kirkland to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the disclosure document has been turned in that was needed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Okay, we have no unfinished business, but moving on to new business, we have fourth quarter appropriations, FY 2019 amended budget appropriations.
I have nothing to add further from that. Just taking questions.
Okay. Any comments, questions? If not, staff recommendation is that the governing body adopt appropriations of funding in the amount of $15,959,912 to the city and $11,194,715 to the schools for quarter 4 of fiscal year 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Okay, moving on to manager's report.
If it's okay with you all, I want to just do one part of my manager report, and then if we can go into closed session, so we can brief him that he is having an emergency, he needs to take off. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry about that. David.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So just wanted to start off with one item that as well. So Chief Dixon has announced that he's going to be retiring this coming summer, June 30th. He's been chief with us. Perfect time. He's been with us
I
since,
think 2011, I believe.
Yeah, okay, 2011.
I believe so.
Prior to that, he was battalion chief in Norfolk. And you can see, we put up some highlights for what he's accomplished, and when he gets back, I'll thank him again publicly for everything he's done for the city. The plan is for right now, and I already went through a similar vetting process as for the police chief, to appoint Deputy Chief Soper as an interim fire chief for a year and to evaluate his performance in that role. And he himself will be evaluating the battalion chiefs as well and their ability to kind of step up as well to fill in kind of deputy role as needed. But that's the current plan right now. I also plan on offering to have kind of chief fill in for what Jack was doing before as an ongoing kind of consultant role for the emergency management coordinator, kind of shift those funds to enable chief to kind of stick with us on a part-time kind of remote consulting basis to support the new emergency management coordinator, because as we know, it's going to be a more junior person as well. So that would just be for a short period of time. And so, Chief, I was just thanking you publicly for your services. And
Yeah.
you want to say a few things? For sure.
Yes.
You say a lot of good things about
this.
You'll never know because you weren't here.
Sort over, I missed some of that. That's all we had to do. Quick break. Mayor, Council, I just want to say thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Chief.
Yesterday actually was my 7th year as serving as fire chief for the city. And my decision to step aside and retire was very difficult. I can tell you that. But I've got some family commitments that I have to deal with, and I was being pulled in 2 directions, and I just didn't think it was fair to the city if I couldn't give 100%. And so I made that decision, and we'll see what the future has in store. I did decide to go ahead and retire, but I'm not finished working, doing something somewhere. So I hope the future still has me here doing a little bit, because I've been very excited for the last 2 years, with council and, your vision and cooperation, the city manager, his planning. For the first time, we have something that we can look at and we can see where we're going and, trying to get to. And it's been very, very exciting. Thank you for all your support.
Well, we certainly thank you for all of your service to the city. We
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So much.
definitely. Definitely.
So with that, then I'll complete the rest of my presentation after closed session.
All right.
Okay, so we will then move into closed session now.
And I was asked by the city manager after the agenda was approved if we could add an additional item onto the closed meeting agenda. So I have to pull it up here because what I got here is the old one, if it's okay.
Okay.
I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to discuss the disposition of city-owned real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the city, to consult with the city attorney regarding probable litigation, and to consult with the city attorney regarding 3 specific legal matters that require the provision of legal advice by the city attorney pursuant to paragraphs 3, 7, and 8 respectively of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We'll go into closed session, and we'll take a 5-minute comfort break prior to closed session.
I'm sorry, I was just.